What is going on, YouTube? Hope you guys are doing fantastic today. Today, we're going to be talking about Guardian mains and their gods, and basically stuff that they know that you might not know. We're going to be going down the list of all the Guardians, talking about something that these mains know about their god, know that you might not know, something you may know but may not know how to do, and why. We're going to be starting with Ares. We're going to be going down the list. I hope you guys enjoy the video. This will be maybe a little noob friendly, but even if you're a seasoned veteran, there's probably at least one or two that maybe just kind of fly over your head. Starting with Ares. Shackles is his most important ability, and what about Shackles makes it so important? It cripples, it does damage, and it basically just allows your teammates to blow up whoever you are chaining. The difference between a good Ares and a bad Ares is how they use their shackles. The best and the top tier Ares always try to put that 2 seconds in between their chains. While shackled, Ares can fire another chain for free within 2 seconds. So you want to push this chain as much as you can to that 2 second, 1.9 second mark, and then chain again. You don't want to chain, and then 4 seconds, then your chain damage is gone. You want to chain. Early game, you can't auto chain because you don't have enough attack speed through scaling. So you're going to want to chain, auto, wait like another half second, chain again, auto, wait a half second, chain, auto, and that is basically going to be your Ares combo. When you get later into the game, it works out pretty well where you can double auto with Ares and then chain again. So say around level 12, once you get your second relic, start putting into your head double auto before hitting the chain. Obviously, this only works if you're in melee range. If you're in range and the guy's running away from you, autoing is going to slow you down and he's going to be able to get away. If you chain while meleeing, wait that 1.9 seconds and then chain again, wait 1.9, chain again. And then instead of having a 4-second ability, this ability is lasting 8 seconds. You are doubling your damage if you do this correctly. Another small thing about Ares is you want to spread your chains as much as you can in a team fight. 4 seconds, however you're hitting your chains, onto one person versus 4 seconds on one, 6 seconds on another, 8 seconds on another. Your damage is going to go through the roof as soon as you start chaining multiple people and waiting that 2 seconds in between. Don't wait, obviously, 2 seconds, because at 2 seconds, the chains go away and you can't chain again. But 1.999, I just don't want to say 1.999. But yeah, wait those 2 seconds in between before chaining again. Next up, Artio. She's a lot less played than she used to be, but there's one thing that a good Artio knows how to do, and it might seem like it. Same with Arthur, because she's a button spammer, but knowing when and how to use your abilities is going to be the best thing for this character. If you're playing against a character who's got movement speed and a dash, say a mage like Agni, and they have Gemma Focus and Karen's coin, so they have a lot of movement speed. You're not going to want to just cripple right away, because they're just going to run out of your cripple. You're going to want to stun in bear stance first, and then cripple around them, and then try to cut off where they're going. That is the best way to play around it. You don't want to just spam your abilities when it's up. Sometimes holding your 1 to try to get the heal when you can get more people grouped around you is better. 3ing at a distance instead of just 3ing multiple different people just to get some poke onto them. If you're stacking cloak, it's obviously a little bit different. And then holding your dash for maybe actually using it for the slow and then using it for an escape. A big thing that people underestimate with Artio is she gets 24% movement speed late game if she hits 8 stacks and it's a second in between. Something where it's difficult to do, but it's not impossible. If you're up to 5, 6, 7 stacks, keep going, hit that 8 stack, and your dash is going to be just as fast as that movement speed that you're getting. So that's something that you can kind of keep in the back pocket where it's, okay, well, I'm going to use my dash here, but I have this bunch of movement speed burst to try to get out also. So I can use this to slow and then turn to peel out with just the movement speed. Little things like that separate good Artios from bad Artios. Don't just spam your abilities. Think about how the enemy team is going to want to play around you. It's important for every god in the game, but Artio, when she's got 6 abilities that are all on a 15-second cooldown, where if she uses it, she has to wait a little while for it to come back up. It's very important to use her abilities correctly. Athena, a lot more simple. Do not underuse your ultimate. Always having your ultimate available and never using it is not a good thing. Spam use it if you have to a little bit. Put this thing on cooldown. Let the enemy team know that you will be ulting over if there's ever a threat under your ADC or your solo laner. You don't want to just be holding this the entire game, because then what is the point in playing Athena? You want to use your global presence, use your global ultimate. This is a 10-second cooldown. It's high, but is it too high that you just never use it? Kind of like Yemoja, where you almost always want to have like the threat of it, or being able to use it when it's up. Use it to get around the map. Use it to help your jungler. Use it to help your solo. Use it to help your ADC. Whoever needs it, use it. Don't just hold it the entire game. Next up, Atlas. A lot of people do know this, but do not underestimate this character's damage. Just one damage ability will allow you to solo the enemy's backliners if they don't have a relic or a dash and they can't get out of your abilities. This is 200 damage minimum on a 10-second cooldown, and then you also have basic autos, which do, honestly, like a lot of damage to gods. It doesn't do much damage to minions, but it does about 50 damage to gods. Gravity Pull does about 340 damage. The dash does 280 burst damage. The ult does 65, and every half second it's ticking up. It's insane how much damage this character does. And then if you do get to the point where your astrolabe is procced and you can use your ult to hit people, your burst is through the roof. You can kill backliners. Don't feel like you cannot. This one is a very simple one. Stop trying to secure kills with Bacchus ult. The best part about Bacchus ult is 6 seconds of intoxicate. Let me say that again. A 6-second CC. I might be wrong, but I'm pretty comfortable saying this is the longest CC in the game that isn't like a super soft CC, like a slow or something like that. 6 seconds where the enemy's team cannot control their character as well as they want to or as perfectly as they usually would be able to. Ult at the beginning of fights. It's also something where you're getting just magical power from using it. Thanks for burping, Bacchus. Blink ult in a fight and then use your 3 and your 2 and your autos. Don't just jump in 3, auto a couple times, and then ult to secure. You want to get as much base damage off as you can and not just secure a 200 health enemy that's just going to be dying anyway. Use your ult at the beginning of the fight. That's 6 seconds in that fight where the enemy will be intoxicated and thrown off. Next up, Cabrakhan. Cabrakhan is one of the few gods in the game that has a CC that has no diminishing returns. Now, let me tell you, he also has CC on top of his kit, so there's a way in which you want to use your stuns with Cabrakhan. If you can, you want to use your Refraction Shield first, and then Seismic Crush. Seismic Crush is the one that procs on your next auto attack, and his next successful basic attack will stun with no diminishing returns and do bonus damage. The bonus damage isn't the biggest thing, but now why is this so important? If you think about it, a lot of people consider Cabrakhan to be a backline diver. He wants to kill the enemy's backline. There are 2 ways to play Cabrakhan. You can kill frontliners, and you can dive backliners and kill backliners. A lot of characters can only choose one or the other. Cabrakhan with a 1.5 second 2 stun, and then a 1 second 1 stun with no DR, he can now lock down enemy frontliners for 2.5 seconds. A lot of times they don't have beads and they don't have a way to get out of it, or like a Geb shield cleansing them as a support, or Chiron or something like that. Hell, that's 2.5 seconds where your team can kill this person. That's why I think an underrated play or an underrated way to play Cabrakhan is to go Sunder and then just 2-1 enemy frontliners and just try to one-shot them. And then also using your cage so they can't get out. It's a very underestimated way to play Cabrakhan, but it is very, very strong and people don't really expect it. This is going to be very, very noob friendly. And it's probably been talked about when Serb came out and when he was played a lot more. But always try to get your heads procced before leaving base. Use your 2 just to get it. Even if you're walking somewhere else, put this on cooldown to get your paralyzing spit up. This is your best ability. You always want all the heads, what's the word? Active, is that what they use? Alerted. You want all the heads to be alerted so you can get the stun. If you have 2, if you have 1, if you have 3, this does no damage. This does not stun. This is one of the worst abilities in the game. But with 4, all heads procced, it actually does a lot of damage. Cthulhu. Don't worry too much about breaking the sanity and getting your damage mitigation up. Sanity break in laning phase and in 2v2s reduces attack speed slows for 3 seconds. One of the reasons I actually really liked playing him in support. If you just dashed onto the enemy ADC and and won them, their damage drops down a lot. You also get mitigation on top of that from that person. So you can just 1v1 people very, very easily. It's something that people underutilize, and I think they worry too much about just trying to get the damage mitigation stat up. Use Sanity Break to reduce the enemy's attack speed and enemy's mitigation. You get it automatically when you ult, so it's not something you have to worry about too much when you're hitting like 5 and when you're ulting. But when you're not ulting and you don't have ult for fights, use the Sanity Break for the attack speed reduction and the damage mitigation. Fafnir, a low-key one, which is ulting before a fight start. Now, this is a little bit worse when you're at 20 and 30 seconds because you don't have as much time to win the fight, and you also can only use 1 round of abilities. But when you're getting up to 40, 50, 60 seconds on his... I didn't even realize this lines up perfectly. Once you get to the 40, 50, 60 second duration, not the dragon breath damage, you get up to that duration, you can ult before a fight starts and then start walking up. Instead of just having 1 hard CC, even if it's single target, you have 2 hard CCs. Doesn't matter really that they DR each other. You're still stealing debuffing protections, and you're doing a lot of lockdown in that time, and your damage is actually very high. Ult before a fight, especially if it's on an objective, especially if you're going for a tower, ult before the fight, and then look to fight with your upgraded abilities. Ganesh. This one's kind of in the same vein as Athena, but you have one of the lowest ult cooldowns in the game. It's right there with like raw ult. 75 seconds is very, very low. A lot of times you're going to be building at least 1, maybe 2, or even 30 to 40%. I don't know why I switched from cooldown items to cooldown percentage, but I was like, Pridwin's bought a lot. But yeah, you'll get to 30 to 40% cooldown reduction, and this is going to be going down to almost a 40-second cooldown. My biggest thing with Ganesh is when Ganeshas don't try to start fights or use their ult at the beginning of a fight, and instead they kind of hold it to like peel or whatever. I think the best thing and the best way to play Ganesh is to use your ult aggressively onto the enemy's backliner to put a little bit more damage, a little more pressure onto them, and then let your dive clean up. Your 2-1-3 is most of your peel. Your ult isn't really a peel tool. You have damage just to try to kill them, and it gives your teammates extra damage. You have Ohm, which is going to be silencing and giving protections, and then you have a CC, which knocks them up and you can kill off of. This is what you need for peel. Use your ult to dive the backline and then use your other 3 abilities to peel. You can win both fights simultaneously while doing this, and you help out both your dive and your backliners with this. It's the best way to play him, and especially when you get down to 40-second cooldown, 45-second cooldown on Ganesh ult, just spam this. If you see the enemy ADC at a position and you can get 2-3 ticks of your ult onto him because of how he's walking, throw it out. If your jungler's close enough, he cleans up. If not, the guys go back to base because you half-health him. That is the biggest thing with Ganesh. His ult does a lot of damage. Use it as a poke tool. It's a low cooldown. Geb. Use the shield as a shield. It's not just a CC. It's not just a cleanse. Use it as both. If somebody's taking a lot of damage, even if they're not getting hit by a CC, you don't have to just hold your ability for a CC. Unless there's a super important, like, Circuit ult, where you just don't know where she is and you're really worried that as soon as you use that, your mid with no beads is going to die. Maybe in that scenario, you're not going to want to use your 3. But in any scenario where your jungler is just 1v1ing the enemy jungler, just toss your shield onto him. Give him that health shield. It makes it just a lot easier to trade when you're getting an extra 300 health in the trade. So just, yeah, use Stone Shield for the damage. Late game, it changes up a little bit because this is actually a very important cooldown. Probably his most important cooldown late game. But in that early mid game, use it for the health. Even though he's not much of a support, we'll talk about Yorm. I think the biggest thing that people have not really realized is Submerge, you still get the movement speed even when you break stealth. It used to be, if your stealth got broken, you'd lose the movement speed. 35% movement speed is a lot. You can kind of take off across the map. The biggest thing about the 3 now is use it for vision. Spam this. This cooldown is down to 12 seconds. This used to be, I think, 17 or 18 second cooldown. It is now down to 12 seconds late game. Use it for the vision. Try to find the enemies. See if you're getting ganked. It's a really easy way to just, instead of just going instantly under and then popping up, use it to go under and then like walk into the jungle a little bit to see if there's anybody coming around for the gank and then walk back in and pop up. Very easy to be safe with Yorm and also to be aggressive with him. All Khepri players that are not super Kheprified, where they just know how to play him in and out, have a problem with Scarab's Blessing. This is not an ability you have to use when your ally is 0.10 health and they're going to be dying if they get breathed on. This is an ability you can use when your ally is 50% health, but he's blinking and he has no beads or Aegis, and you just want to get it onto them. So it's either they have to choose either, especially if it's an assassin, they have to choose either, oh, let's kill this guy just so we stop diving our backline, or let's try to wait this out. Put the pressure on them to make the decision. Toss your ult onto your ally and let him just go buck wild. Don't just hold this for 1 health, because if you do, mistime it just barely. There is a very small cast time at the beginning of Khepri's ult. You could time it perfectly. You could time it literally perfectly, but that tiny cast time at the beginning might throw off the ult just enough where you can't get it onto your ally, even if you hear the audio. It's kind of a ping thing also, but it does have a small casting time also. Keep that in mind with Khepri. Ult people in there a little bit healthier. You can ult them before they go in also, just so it's not the, oh, let's just try to burst this guy. Instead, he comes back 40% health. Put the pressure onto the enemy to make a decision to either kill this guy or keep him alive. Kumba. I know nobody mains Kumba, but I used to go through a little phase where I loved this character. The biggest thing with this character, in my opinion, is Mighty Yawn and waking people up in it. The best way to use Kumba is to use this 3-second mez duration till 0.9999 seconds and then wake them up so they have another 2 seconds of being slowed by 40% and an attack speed debuff of 50%. Instead of this being a 3-second CC, it's essentially a 5-second CC with how slow their attack speed is. Abuse that. It's a really easy way to extend your Kumba combo when you're hitting people with the full cooldown or the full CC where you're mezzing, 2ing, and then ulting. Obviously, you can't hit Kumba's full CC combo anymore because they made Groggy Strike one of the worst abilities in the the game because Roots DR, but they added a cripple, so it helps it a little bit. Abuse waking people up with the Mighty On. It's also something where you can do it at the beginning of the other when it's really early game too. So instead of a 1 second CC, it's a 3 second CC. Wake people up right before they're about to wake up for the slow and the attack speed debuff. A couple things with Kuzenbo that make him very, very annoying to deal with is the mitigation on Water Bowl and the Watery Grave mitigation also. Comboing these on top of each other, you're getting 35% mitigation if you play it correctly. Now, Water Bowl, each time you take damage, you're going to be getting mitigation stacking on top of each other. Stacks last for 30 seconds and refresh when he gains another. If he's affected by a true hard CC, the bowl loses half of its stacks. Now let's think about this. If you have a CC immune ability and you have a mitigation passive that stacks when you get hit by true hard CC, a really good way to stay super tanky with Kuzenbo is to alt things that are going to CC you. So instead of being at 15% and then getting hit, so it's 7.5% and then alting, if you use it right away, 35% mitigation stacked on top of each other while also doing damage is a really good way to just stay as tanky as possible with Kuzenbo and to do as much damage as possible also. So when you're getting onto the enemy backline, if you think a CC is about to be used, use your alt as it's happening. Like if Athena's walking up to you and she's looking like she's about to taunt you, alt it. If you time it perfectly and she taunts you as you alt, you don't lose the stacks and you get off a lot of damage on the enemy backliners and you're getting a lot of mitigation comboed from both your passive and your alt. As a self-proclaimed Maui main, the biggest thing with him is spamming your 2. This lasts 10 seconds and the cooldown is 10 seconds. This ability is perma up. It is perma up in the late game. And if you get more cooldown, it is up actually more often than it is not up, if that makes sense. You can't have 2 down, but you can have 1 down, essentially allowing yourself to just have permanent 35% protections and permanent 12% movement speed. When this becomes late game, this should be on the ground at all times. It should be in a spot where maybe somebody can take it if they need to, but it should also be try to get this down as quick as I can so I can give my team that movement speed and those protections whenever. It does have a unit of a range of 35, and the aura radius is 110. So make sure you're keeping it in that 35 if people can walk through it. Don't throw it like over a wall thinking, oh, the people on this side of the wall will be able to get it, because they won't be able to. But still, spam this ability. The movement ability of actually taking it is really nice, but the most underappreciated thing is the movement speed and the protections. Sobek. This one may seem very simple, but don't pluck the frontliners into your backline if they are fed. The enemy solo laner is 19-0. 6 levels up on your backliners. It doesn't matter how confident you are you're hitting this pluck. If you pluck them into your backline, you are killing your backliners. Pluck smart. Can my team kill this guy? Yes. Good pluck. Can my team not kill this guy and he will kill them all? Don't pluck. It's a very simple tip for a very simple character. For Sylvanus, the biggest thing is using your 2 for the protections. The heal is not Sylvanus' strength. It's giving the protections to allies. 26 for 5 seconds. This will be healing for about 130. But the protections, 30 protections for 5 seconds will be mitigating a lot more than the 130 seconds. The best time to use it is when as soon as they start taking damage, so you get like 4 ticks of heal, and then the protections for all 5 seconds. That is the best time to use it. Use it right as the engage is starting, not after the engage is partially over to heal your allies. The heal is actually super weak, but the protections are insane. Abuse the protections. Terra's ult has changed. It used to be a tick heal that would help a lot. Now it's more of a mitigation and burst heal. You want to use this immediately at the beginning of the fight, not something you want to hold at all. You want to get this ult off as quick as you can because it's giving mitigation to your allies, making the enemies take slightly more damage, and then also providing a burst heal and burst damage output to the enemy. Ult at the beginning of the fight, as many people as you can hit with this, it's going to be better. The one thing I would say is keep your eye on the enemy's relics. If the enemy solo laner has Blighted Ankh, and you are playing Terra and you are ulting your backline a lot, ulting your backline is actually going to be the worst thing you can do, because if you ult your backline, you're going to be making them take extra damage as soon as your heal pops off. So the best thing to do is to try to hold your ult a little bit, or just to try to ult the enemy's backline. It's really just a problem with Blighted Ankh, because this makes your teammates take 20% more damage, and your ult is only making your teammates take 10% less damage. So you're kind of in a spot where if you use it, you're going to be making them take more damage, and the heal is going to be pretty irrelevant also. Just try to heat the enemy's team if they have a Blighted Ankh and they've been ulting you and your allies a lot. Or they've been onking you and your allies a lot. Xing Tian. Use your 3 as immunity frames. They are instant. If you 3, you dodge anything. Scylla's Crush is underneath you and you 3 it, the damage will not hit you. Zeus ult is underneath you. You can actually jump out of it without taking any damage because it's an immunity frame. Use it to juke abilities. Don't just double jump right away to try to just get as far as many distance as possible. Hold it for an ability you want to kind of juke and jump around. The protections you get are pretty dumb. You don't really get anything from them because while in the air, Xing Tian has increased protections, which is probably one of the funkiest things in the game. If you're getting like Nuwa ulted, I guess you could like jump and you'll take the damage, but you'll get protections. I don't know. It doesn't make sense really. Never really made sense to me why he got it. Maybe when he landed, if he got him or something. But so use it to juke abilities. It's very strong for that. And then use it with auto attack cancels in between. Xing Tian is one of the better auto attack cancelers in the game because he has like 5 different iterations or 5 different abilities that he can auto attack in between. Abuse Sky Cutting Axe. It's an OP ability. Yemoja. Kind of simple, kind of not simple. Stop spamming abilities. Your Omi is absolutely busted out of the fact that you can just spam abilities, but it's also kind of her biggest downfall for casuals. They don't really know, oh, when do I use my abilities? How do I use them? Let's just spam use them. Think about what you're doing with your ability. If you're chasing down, Riptide is going to be very good. But do you want to use 4 Riptides right in a row as you're chasing so you have no Omi for the actual fight? No. Your ally is getting dove and you're holding Mending Waters. Your ally gets onked and you continue just 2ing them even though they're onked. Not a good use of your Omi. Instead, you could Riptide them out instead of just trying to spam heal them. Use this to give them the movement speed and the protections. Another thing, there's going to be a 2-piece for Yemoja. Her ult blocks enemy autos, but not ally autos. So if your ally is getting dove, your ADC is getting dove, drop your ult right on top of him so he can sit in the wall and auto them and they can't auto him. It's a very abusable way for for Yemoja to just abuse the enemy dive, but it's something that's very underutilized at the lower level. Ymir, it's a small one, but it's big at the same time. If your ice wall is not being used for something useful, drop it to get it on cooldown. It's like a min-max thing where, oh, let's use this here to block them off. Oh, they jumped it. Okay, let's take the wall down so I can get up again to try again. Use that. Don't just keep your ice wall up just because it looks funny. Drop it down to try to min-max to get it back up as quick as possible. And there it is. One thing that every main knows about their Guardian that you might not know. I do hope you guys enjoyed the video. Is there something that you guys know on a certain character that you think others might not know? Drop it down below. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your day. See you guys again next time. Peace.